questions are answered in heaven and also on this podcast. I'll answer them all, gonna answer them fast, as for that is how we will get ahead in our classes. It's the Float Tank Podcast from Daily Solutions, my dear.
True love.
Cool. I'm Graham.
And I'm Jake.
And we have some more answers to your construction questions. For instance, today's question is trench drains, comma, regular circular drains, comma,
Okay. ...
or no drains.
Wow.
So I almost feel like the ... in here implies they know something was wrong with that option.
Yeah.
Or can I just sneak this in there? Like, what if I spend no money on drains?
Yeah, well, technically
is that
you
okay?
agreed to this, right? No, that's clearly not the case. No drains is a mistake.
Yeah, and I assume they mean like no drains maybe other than the shower
Yeah.
drains. If you have showers in your rooms and you don't have drains.
No, I assume that they mean just no drains at all.
Well, that's a serious problem, yeah.
Okay, all right. Maybe I should dial back my disbelief then. Okay, all right, just a shower drain then is what they're saying.
Maybe, or yeah, I mean, certainly otherwise,
Maybe.
no. Definitely put in drains. Yeah, your shower, in fact,
Okay.
needs a drain.
So the question here is, do we put drainage in our dressing area and near our spa pack? Because, again, we're going to assume the shower drain is there. So dressing area, spa
Or maybe
pack.
they even have their showers in a different room or something weird like that.
Oh,
you know?
that's a good point. That's what you get for assuming. That's what I get for assuming.
That's what they get for sending in a short form abstract question.
Okay. If you have no
A
showers,
really good short
in your
form
flow room.
abstract question.
no drains, still a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Because Epsom salts, they're going to get everywhere. That water is everywhere.
I guess that's, I mean, we kind of started out that way too. Like we had our
Yeah.
shower, which was a little, just like a self-contained little, like had a lip, like there's a shower
Yep,
pan
there's a drop-in
indoors and
pan, yeah.
everything.
Yep.
So all the shower water got drained, but then outside of that, we didn't really have any drains in our
No,
rooms.
you need to clean it constantly.
Yeah, so it is possible, but it sucks. There's a lot of saltwater cleanup. That saltwater dries on things. If you can just spray it down and wash it down a drain,
So much easier for every single
orders
transition.
of magnitude easier.
We were
yeah.
backing ourselves out of rooms, changing out chamois regularly because once you saturate one with salt and like it's just you're just pushing salt around the room. Also building materials like the floors, like that's where we see the most damage from these Epsom salts. It's because it's sitting there, it's pooling there. Water is pervasive, salt is pervasive. When they team up, they're this creepy little duo that'll do whatever they want. So yeah, floor drains are just super important just to wash away all those Epsom salts.
Okay, so and I actually don't know this, but what's your preference between like circular drains and trench drains if we were to build float on from the beginning? So in float on we have circular drains. But
We
that's
do.
almost we didn't.
We do.
That's what we could add in, kind of.
Right, but we've with all of our renovations, we've had a choice about trench drains at one point in time. And what he's saying by that is just one long drain, either on the side of the room and everything sloping towards that, or in the middle of the room. I will say that if it's in the middle of the room, it becomes kind of one of the design elements for the room. So that's something to take into consideration. And also, if you change the tank in the room ever in the future, like will that drain still be where it's appropriately where it's supposed to be? All right, so for me, I think it depends on what the waterproofing material is over your floor.
So like whether it's a laminate or an epoxy.
Yeah,
or a
exactly. Like if
tile
you're
or-
using some kind of sheet flooring with heat welded seams and everything like that, or if you're doing like an epoxy resin system. If you're doing an epoxy resin system, you're going to encounter the same problems with a trench drain that you are with regular drains. It's just that bond on the edge of the drain. I would almost argue that a long straight drain, you can get a better, cleaner line around that. You know what I mean? So like maybe we're not even looking at circular drains. Maybe we're looking at rectangular drains might be the ideal thing, because right now we're keying in a circle. And I think a long trench drain, like you might be able to get a better key in, which is basically grinding out the concrete right at the edge of the drain and then letting that reservoir fill with the epoxy resin so that you get a really good bond between your protective flooring and that drain body. If we're talking about sheet flooring, I would love to use a trench drain. There is not one exists that is capable of clamping the surface level membrane in place. When I say that, it's a lot of words right there.
It is a lot. I was like, is he going to explain this or just breeze past it?
No, I'm just going to breeze past it. I assume everyone's on the same page. No, so surface level membrane, that's what that sheet flooring is. It's a membrane that's on the surface that's protecting your substrate from water. So surface level membrane clamping floor drain, which basically means I'm taking that surface level membrane, I'm clamping it down into the drain body, and then I cut a hole where drainage actually is. So the idea there is that all the moisture, all the water, all the Epsom salts that come into that drain, they flow over that sheet flooring until they're actually recessed down at a lower level and in the drain body itself. So there's no possible way for salts or moisture to back up and start destroying your substrate underneath. And that's far, far, far superior for sheet flooring type of drains. The old classic way to do it is to take your sheet flooring and cut around the drain. We've seen that fail many times. At Float On, actually, we had.
So I guess just to back up a little bit. So the
Sorry, I get on a roll. On this.
No, it's good. It's good.
Passionate about floor drains.
So the surface clamping membrane drains,
Yes.
are not available in trench drains, at least right now.
Right now.
We haven't found them. Maybe
we haven't found them.
Yeah.
We have heard in like folklore, like secret salt
Passed down
circles,
through
like
the
people talking
generations,
about
yeah.
the salts. No, we have heard that there are a few people trying to fabricate them because, a talented metal worker could definitely make something like this. We've heard of somebody trying to do it in Detroit, and we've heard of somebody doing it over in England. We have not got confirmation, nor have we been able to get our hands on these. And once we do, then I will definitely, we'll let you know. Like, we'll write a blog about it probably because, again, passionate about floor drains.
So moving on, the damage that can happen if you don't use these is potentially copious.
Yeah. Oh, and no, for sure. I mean, think about it. Like, if you don't use this floor drain, you're cutting a sheet flooring up to the edge of the drain, and then you're banking on this contractor that she nailed it, that she just basically got it perfect cut all the way around. And on top of that, the adhesive that's holding your sheet flooring down, hopefully it's an epoxy-based adhesive and not just some water-based glue. Hopefully like that has a solid bond all the way around, because it only takes one small pinhole, one small air bubble, one small nick with your blade, and then all of a sudden a little bit of moisture gets in there and it's impregnated with salt, and then the salt crawls. We've seen it destroy concrete. We've cut out around. We had to do this. This is what we almost got into when I was on the train a few minutes ago. I might be back on the train actually.
It's fine. It's a good train.
Okay,
Just make sure the audience is
make sure
has
you
the
guys are
tickets
all
too,
all right.
yeah.
Everybody get on the train. All right. Okay. So if you don't do this, you're going to end up having to cut out the sheet flooring around it. And if you come out to the Float conference, you'll be able to see this. You can come check out our rooms. We have older sheet flooring that we've had for 6 years in a couple of those rooms. We did not use these newer style of drains, and you're seeing the damage. And then you're going to see the repair, obviously, because we repaired it. The last note on that is that these are very, very expensive drains. I don't want you to have sticker shock. A standard drain, $30, whatever. These drains, $400 to $600. We've seen some models as high as about $800, which adds up when you start adding all those floor drains into your room. And then the question becomes, how many floor drains do I want in my room, right?
It's weird when you start asking your parents for floor drains for your birthday. It's like when I realized I was no longer a child. Yeah. I'm an adult now.
I would really like the Zern.
So, so the bottom line though is, as a result of this, if you are using sheet flooring like Ultro or Tacaron,
Borbo, there's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah. You would probably not use trench drains just because they're not available in a really nice sheet
that
flooring
model is not available
Yep.
yet. So
okay.
Yeah.
What about, so then for epoxy though, you think either one could work?
I think
And
either one would work.
potentially the trench drains would actually be better.
I think so. Like in practice, right? We just have single drains in our rooms that have epoxy resin, so we're keying in around those, and they're actually circular drains. Hindsight, 2015 being what it is, I would like a square drain, something that's easier to get a good solid edge around. And in those rooms, we're always playing with different products. We tried one of those cheaper, just for the drain body itself. That's what's below the hair strainer and actually connecting to your plumbing, for just in case anyone doesn't know what a drain body is. We tried one of those chromed ones, and we're seeing that rot out. You know what I mean? So yeah, interesting stuff.
What about for tile? kind of drain?
Tile, kind of the same thing, right? Like you're going up, like you're cutting your tile around a floor drain. You're using epoxy grout.
Yeah, I guess it's very similar to the
it's
epoxy.
The same. You know what I mean? Again, like we're just covering, we're protecting our surface with some armor, and like that armor has to get to the edge of the drain, and that's the weak point in the system. Epoxy systems, technically seamless, I guess. Tile systems, clearly we like epoxy grout and a lot of seams, and we actually don't even like tile that much on floors just for slip resistance and whatnot, but that's a whole nother podcast.
It's a tricky thing if you try to use tile. It's why if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, we bring up laminate floors and epoxy resin floors so often, is those really do seem to be the least problematic of the floors you can install.
Right.
Not absence of problems, but least least problematic.
All right. I don't know. You think anything else about drains?
I will say it's less to do with the drains itself, but the concrete sloping going up to the drains.
Literally, same idea.
I've just seen so many bad concrete sloping jobs, which is a good thing to pay attention to. Definitely invest good money in finding a good concrete guy, because if they mess that up, it is not a fun experience as a float center owner. But what I was going to say is, I feel like I've seen less problems with concrete sloping leading up to a trench drain. Probably just because you can you don't need to slope in a circle, which is a harder thing for us to do. You just need to make a linear slope almost in a straight line going from one side of a room to another.
And
you
have one grade there, as opposed to if you're dropping multiple single drains in, like you're looking at several drainage areas.
Kind of overlapping in a weird mathematical way.
And so how do you do that? Either you're busting out the slab and then pouring each of those individually, which can be expensive, or you're building up a portion of the slab where your tank is, and then you're setting your slopes down to where the current grade is. And because like a contractor or a building owner may not want you cutting open their slab, or you might be in a situation where you're on a post and tension slab over a parking garage that's 16 inches thick or something like that. Sloping is definitely a huge thing. So getting a talented mason.
And again, I feel like a trench drain is a little easier to slope with, just in favor of a trench drain.
Yeah, I agree with you. Absolutely.
And I think that's it. I think that's the only other thing we didn't cover so far that comes to mind.
All right. Cool.
So, good question. And if you have your own, go over to floattanksolutions.com/podcast. And we will read them, and we will enjoy them, we'll savor them, and then we'll share our answers with the world, and you'll have contributed to the great human dialogue.
All right. Everyone have a great day.
Bye, everyone.